There comes a moment in every life when you realize that not every battle deserves your voice. Not every insult deserves your anger, and not every person deserves a permanent place in your story. That moment is not the beginning of loneliness. It is the beginning of wisdom. Too often we believe strength is measured by how fiercely we fight back, how cleverly we defend ourselves, or how long we can endure another person's chaos. But there is a quieter strength, one that does not announce itself with noise. It walks with steady feet. It breathes without fear. It knows that peace is too valuable to trade for endless conflict. Toxic people have a strange way of making you question your own light. They pull your attention away from your dreams and toward their storms. They tempt you to spend precious hours explaining yourself to those who have already decided not to understand. They invite you into arguments that have no finish line, hoping your exhaustion will become their victory. Yet the smartest people have always understood something different. They know that every reaction is an investment, and they refuse to invest their heart where there is no hope of growth. Imagine carrying a beautiful glass of clean water through a field of dust. Every unnecessary struggle shakes the glass. Every meaningless conflict spills what was meant to nourish you. Soon you discover that protecting the water is more important than proving a point to the wind. Your peace, your confidence, your purpose. These are the treasures you were never meant to waste on those committed to misunderstanding you. The truth is that toxic people cannot always be changed, but the way you respond to them can transform your entire life. You do not have to become cold to become strong. You do not have to become bitter to become wise. You do not have to mirror someone else's darkness to prove that your light is real. The greatest victory is often invisible. It is the decision to remain kind without becoming vulnerable to manipulation, to remain compassionate without sacrificing your dignity, and to keep walking toward your future while others remain trapped in cycles of blame and resentment. Today, we will uncover the smartest way to deal with toxic people, not by giving them more of your attention, but by reclaiming your own. Because the moment you stop feeding chaos with your energy is the moment your life begins to bloom in places where conflict could never grow. The first step in dealing with toxic people is not learning how to change them. It is learning how to see them clearly without allowing their behavior to reshape your identity. This is one of the quietest forms of wisdom because it asks you to observe rather than absorb. Toxic people often leave invisible marks. They speak in ways that make you doubt your judgment, question your value, or feel responsible for problems you did not create. Their words can become echoes that linger long after the conversation has ended. If you are not careful, you begin carrying burdens that were never yours to hold. The smartest response begins with a simple but powerful realization. Another person's bitterness is not proof of your failure. There is a difference between compassion and surrender. Compassion allows you to understand that people often act from places of pain, fear, or insecurity. Surrender happens when you excuse repeated harm and convince yourself that enduring disrespect is an act of kindness. True wisdom recognizes that understanding someone's wounds does not require living inside them. You can care about another person's struggles while refusing to let those struggles become the atmosphere in which you live. Many people spend years trying to earn acceptance from those who have already decided to withhold it. They work harder, explain more, apologize longer, and shrink themselves in hopes that peace will finally arrive. Yet peace built upon the sacrifice of your self-respect is never lasting. Every time you abandon your own truth to satisfy someone else's unhealthy expectations, you move farther away from the person you were meant to become. The cost is not only emotional exhaustion, but also the slow erosion of confidence. Recognizing toxicity also requires honesty with yourself. Sometimes the signs are subtle. A conversation leaves you feeling smaller instead of stronger. A friendship demands endless giving but offers little care in return. A relationship becomes a place where your successes are minimized and your failures are celebrated. These patterns deserve your attention, not because they define your future, but because they reveal where your energy is being drained. Awareness is not judgment. It is simply the courage to call things by their rightful names. The most powerful people are not those who never encounter toxic individuals. They are the ones who refuse to let negativity become their inner voice. They understand that criticism does not always reveal truth, that rejection does not erase worth, and that manipulation loses its power when it is recognized. Instead of measuring themselves through another person's distorted perspective, they return to their own values, their own purpose, and their own quiet confidence. When you truly recognize toxicity without losing yourself, something remarkable begins to happen. Your decisions become calmer. Your emotions become steadier. You stop chasing approval from people who cannot give what they do not possess. Instead, you protect the peace within you, knowing that your identity is rooted not in someone else's opinion, but in the unwavering knowledge of your own dignity and worth, allowing your heart to remain free even when surrounded by voices that try to convince you otherwise. Protecting your energy is one of the greatest acts of self-respect you will ever practice. The world often teaches that strength means saying yes to every demand, enduring every difficult relationship, and proving your loyalty by sacrificing your own peace. Yet genuine strength is far quieter. It understands that your time, your attention, and your emotional well-being are precious resources. Once they are spent, they cannot simply be replaced. The smartest people recognize this truth and learn to guard their inner world with wisdom instead of guilt. Boundaries are not walls built to keep people out. They are doors that allow healthy relationships to enter while preventing harmful behavior from taking over your life. Many people misunderstand boundaries as acts of selfishness, but they are actually acts of clarity. They communicate what you will accept, what you will not tolerate, and how you choose to protect your sense of peace. Without boundaries, even the kindest heart can become overwhelmed, carrying burdens that were never meant to belong to it. Toxic people often test limits because they benefit from finding none. They may expect immediate access to your time, demand explanations for every decision, or make you feel guilty whenever you choose yourself. If you constantly surrender to these expectations, you slowly teach others that your needs will always come second. Over time, this pattern becomes exhausting. You begin waking each day with less energy for your dreams because so much of it has been spent managing someone else's chaos. Choosing healthy boundaries does not require anger or cruelty. It does not require long speeches or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes the strongest boundary is a calm and simple response. Sometimes it is deciding not to answer every argument, not to attend every conflict, and not to carry every emotional weight handed to you. There is remarkable freedom in understanding that you do not owe endless access to people who repeatedly misuse your kindness. Your energy shapes every part of your life. It influences the quality of your thoughts, the depth of your relationships, the courage behind your decisions, and the hope with which you greet each new day. When your energy is constantly drained by negativity, even beautiful opportunities begin to feel heavy. But when you protect it with wisdom, your mind becomes clearer, your heart becomes lighter, and your purpose becomes easier to pursue. It is also important to remember that saying no to unhealthy behavior is another way of saying yes to your future. Every moment you refuse unnecessary drama, you create space for growth. Every conversation you walk away from, instead of escalating, becomes an investment in your peace. Every healthy limit you establish reminds you that your life has value beyond pleasing those who refuse to respect it. The goal is not to control other people. You cannot force someone to become more understanding, more honest, or more compassionate. What you can control is your response, your presence, and your willingness to remain faithful to your own values. When you choose boundaries with confidence instead of fear, you discover that peace is not something others give you. It is something you protect with quiet courage, steady wisdom, and the daily decision to honor your own worth above the endless demands of those who thrive on taking more than they ever intend to give. One of the greatest victories in life is learning that not every action deserves a reaction. Toxic people often survive on emotional responses. They seek arguments where understanding is impossible, create confusion where clarity once existed, and invite others into cycles of frustration that never truly end. If you allow yourself to be pulled into every conflict, you soon discover that your energy has been spent proving points that never needed proving. Rising above instead of reacting is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence of emotional maturity, self-control, and deep confidence in who you are. Silence can be one of the most powerful answers you ever give. It is not the silence of fear or defeat, but the silence of someone who understands that peace is more valuable than the satisfaction of winning an argument. There are moments when words only fuel misunderstanding. Every explanation becomes another opportunity for manipulation. Every defense becomes another invitation for criticism. In those moments, wisdom quietly reminds you that your character does not depend on another person's approval. You do not have to convince everyone of your goodness for your goodness to remain real. Reacting without thought often places your emotions in someone else's hands. The moment another person can predict your anger, control your mood, or dictate your peace, they begin shaping the direction of your life. But when you pause before responding, you reclaim that power. You remind yourself that every choice belongs to you. Your calm becomes your strength, and your patience becomes your protection. Instead of being driven by impulse, you move with intention, allowing your values rather than your emotions to guide each decision. This does not mean ignoring every problem or pretending that harmful behavior does not exist. Some situations require clear conversations, firm decisions, or necessary distance. The difference lies in your motivation. You respond because wisdom calls for action, not because anger demands revenge. You choose solutions instead of emotional battles. You focus on preserving your dignity rather than satisfying your pride. This quiet discipline transforms difficult moments into opportunities for growth, rather than sources of lasting regret. Every person you admire has likely faced criticism, misunderstanding, or unfair treatment. What separates them is not the absence of hardship, but the refusal to let hardship define their spirit. They understand that another person's negativity cannot steal their future unless they willingly carry it forward. Instead of becoming consumed by resentment, they continue building, creating, learning, and loving. Their attention remains fixed on the life they are called to live rather than the distractions designed to pull them away from it. When you consistently rise above unnecessary conflict, something remarkable begins to change within you. Your confidence no longer depends on winning arguments. Your happiness is no longer tied to other people's opinions. You become less interested in being right and more committed to living wisely. The noise around you loses its influence because the peace within you grows stronger every day. This is where true freedom begins, not in changing toxic people, but in refusing to let their behavior determine the quality of your heart, the direction of your journey, or the quiet strength with which you continue walking toward the life you were always meant to embrace with unwavering grace and enduring purpose.